Mary Angelio. I am a real live Italian. Let me tell you how to make the perfect meatball. You need to start with olive oil, kind of lean Hamburg, and ground pork. Those are your good main ingredients, you would say. You need eggs, cheese, parsley, salt and pepper. That's your perfect meatball. You would usually have more Hamburg than you would pork. So you would have maybe like 2 pounds of Hamburg and 1 pound of pork. And you would have almost a whole pound. I know it sounds like it's excessive, but probably a whole container, a little of grated Parmesan cheese, fresh if you had it, but good Parmesan cheese. And if you wanted to throw in some Romano cheese, that would be really good too. But actually, I think the more grated cheese you'd put in there gives it more flavor. Fresh parsley, chopped fresh parsley, salt and pepper. And that's really all you need. So once you have all your ingredients, you would use an egg for every pound of meat. So if you have 3 pounds of meat, 3 eggs. Oh, and I forgot breadcrumbs. Ooh, silly me. Ooh. Yes, you must have breadcrumbs. Now you can just use out of the can already. Any kind of flavored breadcrumbs would be just fine. And of course, I don't have measurements, so I can't tell you how much to pour. But it's all in the feel. Put everything in your big bowl. You'd put your meat, and you would at least try to incorporate your pork and your Hamburg together, so that's kind of combined. Then you would put in your cheese, your breadcrumbs, your salt and pepper, and then you'd put your eggs, and then you would fold that in a little bit, and then you'd stick please wash your hands first to make sure that you're not sticking your hands in the meat. So you'd wash your hands, stick your hands in that meat, and just squish away. So it's very important to stick your hands in that meat to combine everything so that you have the consistency where your pork and your Hamburg and the cheeses and everything are just so well incorporated that when it's frying, all those flavors that when it's cooked and you bite into a meatball, it's just all those flavors just burst in your mouth because it's the best thing you've ever had. That's the main reason that you stick your hands in there. Because if you just didn't stick your hands in there, you can mix it and it would be okay, but it's not the same. Like you could put it in a food processor, I suppose, but I've never seen a real Italian put their ingredients for a meatball in a food processor. So if they do, they're not a real Italian, okay? They didn't stick their hands in them. So before you fry this meatball, you'll know that it is the perfect meatball, that before you fry it and you're rolling it, you need to smell that meatball before it cooks, because if it smells good before you cook it, it's gonna taste good after you cook it. So that's the biggest thing. If you smell it and it just smells like meat, then there's not enough cheese, or there's not enough flavor in that meatball, that when it is finally done and you have put it in the sauce and it's been cooking and all the flavors have just kind of mingled all together, if the meatball, even though your sauce is good, if your meatballs doesn't taste good or it doesn't have that bite like the cheese and you can just taste it and it's like, oh my God, this is the best meatball. If you can't smell it, then it's not going to taste like that. You're not going to get that effect when you bite into that meatball. So that's why you have to be able to smell that meat and make sure that it smells really good before you cook it. And then so you roll them. Once it's all done, you roll them, you get a spoon. I get a tablespoon, and I use my tablespoon, and I get a bunch of meat, and I roll them in my hands, and I put them on a plate and get them all ready. In the meantime, I have my olive oil cooking, warming up on the stove. And then I have a whole plate of meatballs, and I just put them all in there, and I just let them fry, and they're so happy, and they're frying, and they're happy, and they get nice and brown and golden, and then of course you have to taste one to make sure that it's good. So, and there's nothing like the taste of a fried meatball before you put it in the sauce. Of course, once you put it in the sauce, and it changes the whole it just changes. Meatballs and sauce and just a fried meatball are two totally different things. When you fry a meatball and when you put that same meatball and it's still the same meatball and it still tastes good, but that fried meatball it's pure. It doesn't have any sauce on it. So that's how you know that your meatball is really good. If you can eat that meatball once you've fried it and it tastes like so good, then you know that you've done a good job and you have the perfect meatball.